Well, there's no horror in this film. There aren't even any decent, like, boo, surprise scare moments out of nowhere. That's the problem. There's no fear in this movie. A horror film has to include some element of fear, but I just don't get that at all in this film.
I think, frankly, this film is more of a thriller, but it's a crappy thriller because it doesn't tell you what's happening. I think that in all of Lordi's film productions, The Kin and Dark Floors, you're placed into the film as a candid, and you essentially are just thrown into this situation and follow it, but you don't actually find out what's happening. And while it's a sort of creative way to set up a horror film, you have to actually have a finale in it. And there isn't any in Dark Floors. It just restarts.
Maybe that's the way you're supposed to watch the movie, just, hit repeat after you view it and, rewatch it again. It's like an endless circle. I'm guessing that's what it's supposed to be, that these events are going to keep happening under different... Maybe this was supposed to be part of a sequel. Maybe the sequel is going to be called Dark Floors 2, The Blue Crayon. After a couple of years, we'd get Dark Floors 3, The Purple Crayon. Dark Floors 4, The Purple Crayon.
Dark Floors 5, when the fuck is it going to stop?
Dark Floors 6, In Space, because you have to have the monsters eventually go into space, like with freaking Leprechaun. Dark Floors 7, Lordi in the Hood, kind of that.
Dark Floors 8. There's something weird about Tobias.
It's so disappointing because they said they wanted to make some more Lordi films. I really don't see that happening, especially after this.
Frankly, I hope it doesn't happen. Honestly, I don't trust Lordi anymore with cinematics. Music videos fine, but everything else just does not work.
I'd like to see a movie, but not with Lordi, because I think Mr. Lordi himself is more than capable of creating a kick-ass looking character. Why not go with that? He apparently created a character in the Inferno music video called The Hanger or something like that. Work with that idea. Like, come on, he has the talent. I know he does. He can create. I'm not asking for Gone with the Wind or something, but I know he is more than capable to create a cool kick-ass horror movie focused maybe on just one monster with a simple but at least coherent plot with somewhat fleshed out characters, and that's really all I was asking. I wasn't asking for much, but
I still remember when I watched this film with Mum and Andy for the first time. At the end of it, it just said it's a good film, but it gets bad the moment they appear in it. And I think that's far too true for a Lordi motion picture. The monsters are what really ruined the film. I'd be able to take the shitty storyline if it wasn't for the monsters just being laughable. Because they are. They just look hilarious.
And I agree completely.
It's just really, really sad that the Lordi motion picture is ruined by Lordi.
But then again, I think with anything, if you put the Lordi motion picture, you're kind of attaching a baggage to it, Maybe if this... I could see Lordi work as monster movies, but they'd have to go a different route than the way they took it with this, because the monsters themselves could work, but I can see it kind of more as a kind of 80s campy Evil Dead style horror film, and in that aspect I think it would work wonderfully. Because I'd actually love to see something of a background for these monsters, because they have a somewhat flimsy background, I guess, in the comics. Why not flesh that out more in screen time? Create kind of like a movie like the Twilight Zone movie. Have like short little segments, 25 each, and devote them to each of the monsters. And then tie them off together and say, okay, at the end of the movie, Mr. Lordi comes in, time travels, and collects them all together after we've seen individual monster stories of the characters. And
I'm going to be honest, I've had the exact same idea over and over again, of just setting up these backstories and using them for once. I mean, look at Base for Breakfast. Enough said. Where's the backstories gone?
There is no backstory. It's essentially, I guess, it reminds me of a vacation holiday movie, Lordi go to the 80s. That's what I kind of see in it.
The thing is, I think they've just chosen the wrong type of theme to put on an album where they so sorely need, cash to come in. You're not going to make money by pretending to be Kiss. You're never going to become Kiss by pretending to be Kiss.
The only way you can be like Kiss is if you were Jewish and if you had Gene Simmons. I'm sorry, but that's the only way it works. It's terrible, but I don't mean to be sort of negative here, but Gene Simmons fits that terrible Jewish stereotype to the bill, and that's what scares me. It's that this man is sort of a living, breathing caricature, but because Gene has invested, I guess, and hoard out the Kiss name so much, it's like you don't want to see any other band take that route and, create Kiss condoms or Kiss caskets, That's my biggest fear.
They brought the Kiss casket back into production,
Oh, they did? Oh, my God. Although I think Lordi condoms, like I said, would be some kind of hit. It would, like I said, take the whole meaning of Pet the Destroyer to a whole different level.
So, that's Dark Floors. Lordi motion picture.
Out of 5 stars, I give it. I'll actually give it 1 star because I'm being generous. Because I do love the makeup on the zombies. I do love the way the sets were used and kind of looked. In that case, I was impressed, but the rest of it just falls into shambles. That's my grade on this movie.
You do realise that now Mr. Lordi's going to be trying to assassinate us.
Oh, he's going to be furious, He's going to be like, how dare you, Nightmare Wings Hell, after all those messages you've tormented me over the years. It's like a knife in the back, I guess.
What's he going to say to me? It's not exactly going to seem very serious when he says, how dare you, Mooney, Mooney, Moo. I mean, Christ. It's just, honestly, this film is dreadful. It's not a good film.
It's not a good film, and what's upsetting is, again, these guys are talented. They could have pulled it off, and I think that's what makes it all the more sad, I guess, for me. Because I know these guys can do much more better.
One thing I think they could have done is simply keep away the money that the Finnish government actually gave to them to make this film. What a fuck up that was. And basically hold money together over eras until we have enough money to make a genuinely good film. But I just think that would be a far better angle. I mean, by Dark Floors, they had already lost so much of the interest of the Finnish people. It would have there'd be no difference in effect if they did it 10 years down the line. It'd just be exactly the same.
To be honest, I wouldn't even make a movie. With the money they got from the government, I would have invested in that, or at least hold on to it. Guys, don't work on a film because it's just something that I just don't see them do. But what they could have done is worked on the tour. They could have utilized so much more for effects, so much more for pyro, so much more for the live show, which is what people, want to see when they go see Lordi. And for Christ's sakes, get rid of pink lighting now, for example. I'm not even going to start on the whole pink lighting. And visit other countries. The fans are like, they're like, well, we're not really well known on the web because you don't go anywhere else, 6 dates in Germany, none in Poland, but that's just little notion of mine that I'm just going to throw in here.
That's the thing, Lordi could have done such better things with this money, which was a lot for their type of band. They could have done so much with it. Can you imagine how much Deadache would have kicked ass? Can you imagine if they'd have saved it for Babes for Breakfast and actually made it a respectable era?
Because
I think we're getting a bit far-fetched now, but they could have.
And I think they could have, because honestly, what is the Babes for Breakfast tour? It's essentially the Deadache tour, using all the props that they've used before, with a different backdrop, and using perhaps the saddest-looking electric chair I've ever seen for the Rock Police. Because when they said electric chair, I thought, okay, it's going to be like this awesome, huge contraption. They're going to strap a guy in, sparks are going to fly out or something. And what I got was a guy who sat, shook around a bit in his seat, and then his face came off, and I was like, oh.
And then he got up and just sort of untied himself and walked off. Because they don't dim down the lights quick enough, and you just see the guy get up again. It's just so sad when a film does that. Film? What am I on about? Tour.
But I guess the problem I have is that is also for the This Is Heavy Metal dude, which is an interesting mascot to say none the least, but what they what they did with the end of the tour was essentially kind of a Barney the dinosaur kind of character, you know. Oh hey kids, look at me! This is heavy metal, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna shake my hands to this. It felt so a little even embarrassing, I'd say, to be honest.
I think ultimately one thing Lordi have always had trouble with is consistency. And I think that around here, in this era right now, and going back to Dark Floors, going back to Apocalypse, all the thematics that they used to have in Get Heavy and Monster Can Dream has just gone to shit. I mean, you've still got all these dark lyrics, but these monsters are not monsters anymore. And Dark Floors really made the mistake of pretending they still were when you could turn over the channel and watch an interview of them laughing about, I don't know, Angelina Jolie or some shit, which they have done before.
Mm-hmm.